Hello everyone, welcome to Zaref Game Dev. In this video, we are going to create the Duet game in Unity. So we are going to create this hyper casual game for which you can get the resources from the GitHub link. So if you want to follow along, you can get the resources, and if you have any doubts, you can click on that link, which will be inside the descriptions uh, and let's start creating the game. So this is my second time recording the video, so I deleted the previous whatever I had, and we have a couple of folders. The first one's for the animation, then we have the prefabs, and next up we have our resources folder in which I already imported all my assets. And next we have our scenes folder in which I already created and added 2 scenes to the build. And finally we have the scripts folder, which also has all of my scripts because I created it again. And now let's go inside our UI. So first let's set our camera color, which is going to be 2163119, and I already attached to the swatch, and you won't be able to see it because it's on a different window. The swatch always opens up on a different window. And the camera size, we have set it to 9.6. Now for the main menu, we already set up the canvas, which is on the screen space camera. Let's set an empty and we'll call this main panel. And this main panel is going to stretch the whole screen, so this will automatically set it up. And let's go inside the panel, and after that we'll start adding our we'll add a title, so it's going to be title text. And as you can see, its title is going to be Duet, and we'll resize it. So for the size, we are going to use 1080 by 256, and for the position it's going to be from the bottom 768, but we'll get it from the top so it rescales automatically. And let's make our font bold, and it's going to be 256 size, and the color is going to be 00 and 93. And if we position everything to the center and go inside our game, you should be able to see how it's going to look. But we'll set the character to 15 so it fills everything up. Now after we have title text, we are going to have 2 buttons. So for that first button, we'll add an image, and this image is going to be for our sound button, and we'll add our circle outline. And similarly, size is going to be 256 by 256 at negative 256, and position Y, we are going to position at negative 640 from the bottom. I'm supposing it won't start. And we'll add one more image to it, which is going to be 160 by 160, our sound image. So that's our first button. Now the second button is for the play, and it is going to be at positive 256, and the image we are going to use our play image. Now after we have created both our buttons, we are going to add our current circle outline to the scene, and we'll call this as player outline, and we'll add our circle to our player outline, which is going to be renamed as red, and it's going to be at negative 2.5. And both are some color, so it doesn't matter. And we'll change it to 93, or make it a little bit nah, we'll need to set it up at 93. And the player outline, currently it has nothing much, but we'll add player outline, not the red one. We will add let's add a trail renderer component, which is going to be of 0.7 size, where at the end it will resize itself. The time is going to be 1, and the color we are going to use is going to be red. And similarly, this color is also going to be our red color, and we need to position it on the top, so order in layer is going to be higher, and the trail, similarly, it's going to have automatically order in layer of 0, but our player outline, its order in layer is going to be again backwards of -1. So for our red, we need to use our default line material, and we'll duplicate this red and rename this to blue, and we'll position it at positive 2.5 and change the color to the blue one, which is the 180, 100. And similarly, we'll change our both the sprites to match this color. Now we have created our basic UI. We'll need to create an animation for that. So let's go inside a animator and create an animator controller, and it's going to be AC, and we'll call it main menu. And inside our main menu, this is for the player. We'll just call it player, and let's attach that controller to our player outline. So this is our animator. Now inside our animator, we'll attach our player outline, and we'll go inside our animator script. And if we click here, we should be able to create a default script, and we'll call it an/main menu. And this is going to be player, and we'll just call it default. Now it automatically attached our script. Now let's add a transform rotation property, and it's going to rotate from 0 to 360, which is going to be on the z-axis, and it will automatically set it up. So if we this rotation fixed, and let's set the curves to be auto, and inside our curves, if we go for the Z, we should be able to see it 0 to 360. Now let's set our both are auto inside our dope sheet. Let's set them to flat. Now if we go inside our curves, they are going to look as flat. We'll need to change it again. Now this time remove the flat, but set it to auto. Broken, left tangent, constant, weighted, free, linear. Left tangent, right tangent. Let's just set it up. So this is going to be here, and this one, its tangent, it's going to be facing this direction. Now if we hit play, we should be able to see our animation, which is this one, and it's pretty much large, so we'll rescale it to 2-second animation, and again it's going to be large, but let's hit pause. And now it's still larger. The time, let's set it up as 0.64, and now hit play. So it's going to look pretty much decent. Still it's faster, so let's set it to 24, and again. Let's hit play. So it's working fine. So this is our default animation, and as you can see, we have set up our basic title screen, and that was for our main panel. Now after our main panel, we'll attach it to our main panel, and it's going to scale it accordingly. We have a sprite renderer, and should be working fine. So if we hit play, we should be able to see our scripts working. That was some delay. That was just for the delay. Now let's create our main menu manager, and we'll also create our audio manager. And we'll add audio manager later, but first let's set up our level panel. We already created the main panel. So for the menu manager, let's add the menu manager script. And for the audio manager, we'll add our audio manager script, and we'll need to create two music sources. The first one is going to be called music, which is going to have an audio source component with a clip of our music. Play on awake and loop set to true, and its volume will set it to 0.5. And we'll duplicate this music, play on awake, loop, and all of this is going to be false. We'll call it effect, and its pitch is going to be a little bit higher. So now we call it effect. We'll add our music and our effect. So if you want the audio manager script, you can get it from the previous video, or you can directly get it from the current project. So we already created it, so I'll just reuse it. And that was for our main menu. And inside our sound, we'll also need one more image. So let's create a UI image, and it's going to be active. And instead of active, it's going to be working as something that's going to be deactivated, 16 by 256, which has a pixel and color. It's going to be a white color, and it's angle -45. So that's how it's going to look currently right now. Now that was our main panel. So let's create an we'll add the animation later. So let's create one more empty, and we'll call it level panel. Similarly, it's going to stretch the whole screen, and then we'll position it to center, and then we'll move it to the right. So this is our second level panel, which is going to be created, and it's again going to have an animation. Okay, so no more background noise is coming, and I'm supposing we won't be able to hear the music, which is uh, was going outside right now. So we created our level panel. So first we'll create our title, which is going to be our stages. So let's create a UI text, and we'll just call it stages, and it's going to be 1080 by 126. 128 position from the top at -96, and it's going to just have stages, and we'll make it bold, make it 128, and alignment is going to be the left and from the center. And after that, let's add a button. We'll just copy our play button, and we'll add it to a level panel, and it's going to be from the top -96 and -96. And the image we are going to use our close image, will delete the next image, and the button will just call it close. And similarly we'll set the size to 128 by 128. So if we hide our main panel, and if we position our level panel to the 0th index, we should be able to see how it's going to look. Now after having our stages, let's create the different stage types. So we will create, let's create an empty first, and we are going to call it stages types, and it's just some UI. It's not going to do anything, but we will use it. So it's going to be from the top, and stretch center top position is going to be -2 to 4, and we need to add an image component to it, and it's going to have a transparency of 1. Let's make it black, or maybe some other color, doesn't matter. Let's just have it the color of background, and we'll set the transparency to 1. So if it is, and in here we'll attach a scroll rect component, which is going to have the viewport set it to self, and for the content component we'll create a UI holder. So let's create an empty, and we'll call it stages holder, and it's going to have a width and the height of 1080 by 2, and the position is going to be 540, and the height is going to be 128. Why was our stages types height was 128? Now inside our stages folder, we'll attach an horizontal layout group component. The padding from the left is going to be 32, and similarly for the stages, it's completely like fixed right now. So we'll attach a few spaces, 1, 2, maybe just one space will be fine. And inside our stages folder, which is going to fit the whole screen, we are not going to use any scaling, and the alignment we are going to go in the middle center. So let's create a UI and text first, and this one text will just call it stage 1, and for we are not going to child force expand width. What would happen? I don't think we don't have any right now. So this is our first stage. Let's create our first stage, and it's going to call story. The size is 256, perfectly fits. And let's make it bold, and for the size we are going to use 80, and for the color we will just use our pure white color, which is already set up. And for the height we are going to use 128, position to the center, already aligned. And inside our stages holder, we need to have it position child alignment upper left, upper center, okay, upper and left, middle and left. So it's going to be middle left, and child force expand. I don't think we want. Let's duplicate it multiple times. So expand is not going to be needed. And the next stage, we'll call it stage 2. And this one is going to be our challenges. And it's going to have a size of 5 and 2. Let's have one more stage. Stage 3, and it's going to have epilogue, EPI LOGUE. Now, after having our epilogue, we are going to have two more stages, which the first stage is going to be encore, and our epilogue still is pretty large, so we'll subtract a little bit, and our encore is also again large, so we will again subtract a little bit. And finally, our last stage is going to be stages, story, challenges, speed run. And similarly, it's going to be 5 and 2, and that's going to be our default stages. And our stages holder is working, so let's hit play, and we should be able to move. We should be able to move, but we didn't add our stages holder to the content, so we are not moving. So now if we click on it, we are able to move, and inside our scroll rect we'll set the vertical to off, and it's already set to elastic mode, and there are no scroll bars. So this is our the default scrolling, and we are able to click any of it. And now next we are going to create which is going to show up all our levels. So again, it's going to be a scroll rect component, and to create all of it, we'll first need to create a couple of buttons. So if we so let's create our levels folder first. So let's create an empty, and we'll call it as levels folder, or maybe what you want to call it is. So it's going to be stretched, anchored, horizontal center. The height is going to be 1632, and the position is going to be negative 128. So that's how it's going to look right now. Negative 136, negative 144. Okay, okay. Negative 144, and it's going to be 1632. So it's going to perfectly fit here, and after that we'll attach an image component to it. Let's set the color to be our background color, and we don't want have any transparency, so we just want it to be a little bit transparent. And inside our stages holder, we forgot to attach a mask component. And similarly, inside our levels folder, we'll attach a scroll rect component first, and after that, we'll attach a mask component. Now, we'll add the levels folder to the viewport, and we'll create an empty, and we'll call it as levels content. And this levels content, it's going to be stretch the whole screen 4320 by 1886. Position is going to be negative 128, and for the X position we are going to use 1620. So this is going to be our whole stages holder, and we'll need to attach our level content to our content, and it's going to be horizontal and vertical, so it won't matter much. Now we have our level content. Inside our level content, let's create an empty, and this is going to be our first content. So content, and it's positioned at negative 1620 and negative 128, and the width and the height is going to be 1080 by 1632. So 1080 is the width and 1632 is the height. Okay, it's going to be at positive 128. So this is going to be our default content. So we have our levels content, and this is our current content, which is again going to have a vertical layout group. And alignment, nothing is going to be needed. We are just going to use as it is, but what's going to be inside the content, we'll need to create a prefab first. So let's hide our level panel and we'll create our first prefab, which is going to be a button, and it's going to be text mesh pro button, and we'll call this button as level button. Now as you can see, it's currently positioned here right now, and we'll increase its size to 320 by 320 so we can see it. Transition is set to none, and we'll need to attach a level button script to it, which I already created. And the color, it's going to be set to the 93, which is our default black, not black, grayish color. And the image, we are going to use our pixel image, which is going to be that one. And let's attach, the text is already attached and it doesn't matter what we call it. So its size, it's going to be the color we have already selected, which is the darker one, and let's have it auto, and it's going to be 72 to 256. So it's looking good right now, and we'll save this button as a prefab. So level button, save it as a prefab, open it up, it automatically attached canvas to it. Let's go inside our main screen and let's delete this level button. Now after we have created this level button, we'll need to create a level holder. So let's call it level holder, and this level holder, again, it's going to be 1080 by 896, and we'll need to save it as a prefab. But before that, let's attach a level title. So let's create a UI and we'll call it level title. It's going to be positioned from the top, negative 128 or maybe negative 64, and the width and the height, we are going to use 1080 by 128, and let's make it bold, position to the center, to the left, and the X size will use 64, and color, it's going to be white. Yeah, it's going to be white. And level title, will call the first title as ignorance, and let's add 2 spaces. And after we have our level title, we are going to create an empty, which is going to be levels. Levels, yep, we are going to have it as level. It's going to be stretched, and it's going to have a grid layout group component, which is going to have a padding of 32, 0, 160, cell size are going to be 320 by 320, and spacing is going to be 32 by 32. If we attach our level button component to it, and we'll rename it to /1, and we'll attach it multiple times and also rename it multiple times, /2, /3, and /4, and finally we have /5, and the last one is going to be the sixth. Added on the wrong one, so /6. Now let's also change the text for all of them. So the 2 is going to have 2 eyes, 3 is going to have 3 eyes, 4 is going to have IV, and 5 is going to have V, and 6 is going to have VI. And we'll save this level holder as a prefab, and let's delete this level holder. Now inside our level panel, let's show it up, and inside our content folder, we'll attach our level holder, which is going to be renamed as level holder under /1, and one more level holder again, which is going to be renamed as level holder under /2. And as you can see, we have our content setup. Let's duplicate this content and -540. Let's just type it -540. The second content is going to be at -+540, and the final content is going to be at just add 1080 to it. So these are all of our contents, and we are able to move along it, and we need to set our level solder type instead of elastic to clamp, so it doesn't look much bad. Scroll sensitivity of 1. So so this is our levels. Created it faster. Now after creating our UI, we'll also need to have the show the UI. So let's create an animator for our main panel first, and this animator, it's going to have animations. Let's create a animator, and it's going to be called AC / main menu / the animator is for our main panel, and we'll duplicate this AC and we'll rename it to level panel. So we have two animators, and let's go inside our main panel and let's attach our main panel animator. Let's go inside the animation window and let's create our idle animation first. And as you can see, it's already attached our idle animation. Now let's go inside our level panel and we'll add an animator component. We'll similarly attach the level, and we'll also add our idle animation to our scene. Now default it's going to be set at the idle animation, but afterwards when we click on our screen, it's going to move to the left. So we'll create an animation for it, and for the idle animation we need to set the loop time to off. And we already have an animation. Now let's create an animation, and for the animation names I have stored those names inside a class. is the constants class. So let's create our first animation, which is going to be called main menu panel, and then left. And here we are just going to have the sample size 24, or maybe just 30, and we'll add the property of rect transforms the anchored position, and currently it's 0, but at the end we'll just add negative 1080. So it's going to move there, and inside our animator main menu panel left, loop time is going to set to off, and let's set the play animation for our main panel. So it's working fine. So it has the loop time set to off. Similarly, we'll create a right animation. So for the animation name, again, I'm going to copy from the constants, and here inside our right, let's change the script size to 30. We'll again add a rect transform anchored position property, but at the positive, it's going to be at negative 1020. So if we go inside our scene, again loop time will be set to off when we click on the main panel and we play our right animation. It's going to be moved from the right. Mm, Similarly, we'll create animations for our idols. So let's create animation clip, main menu, level panel left. Let's hit save. Let's set the sample size to 30, and let's add the anchored position property, and here it is 1080 to 0, but at the end loop time is going to be set to off. And if we go inside our level panel and create one more clip, so which is going to be for the right, here let's add our rect transforms anchored position property, and at the start we'll set it to 0, and at the end it's going to be set to 1. So this is our left animation, which doesn't have loop time. Similarly, our right animation, which also doesn't have loop time, and we have both our animations. Now let's go inside our project window, and let's add the functionalities for our buttons and all of our animations. So we'll start going inside Visual Studio, and I already done it before, so it's pretty much fast here. And let's first add our audio manager. So I'll show the audio manager first, which we already created in the last video. If you want to watch it, go and watch it. So this is our audio manager script, which has the audio source component. This is our field, which is get from the player prefs and returns that value, and this one sets the value, and you can directly refer it from it. I'm not going to go again here. So we have our main menu manager script. So we'll start editing the script. So inside our main menu manager, we are not going to have much. So serialize field, private animator. And here we are going to have two animators. First one is for the main panel animator, and the next one is for the level panel animator. And after having both our animators, let's create a serialized field, private game object, which is going to be the active button, active sound button, or maybe inactive, whatever you want to call it as. Now inside our awake, we'll first set the time scale to 1f, and afterwards we'll get the sound. So So it's going to be playerprefs.hasKey, and it's going to be constants.data.sound. If it has the key, then we'll get playerprefs.getInt, and we are going to get the constants.data.sound, else we'll just set it to 1 and we'll check if it is equal to 1. And active sound button dot set active, we are going to set negative sound. So this is our awake method. Now let's create the rest of the methods. So the first method is going to be open levels, and the next method is going to be the close levels, and finally the last method is going to be our toggle sound. So inside our close, we'll just add main_panel.play animator.play. What we need to play is constants dot animation names dot menu panel left from the -1th layer and 0f, and after that we'll use level panel animator dot play constants dot animation names dot level left ll and -1 and 0f. And let's copy both the script again, and here instead of mmr, and this one is going to be mlr, so it's going to play the close and the open. Now let's go inside our sound and we'll check if our sound is on, then we'll change the sound to be the not sound, and after that we'll set the player prefs dot setInt constants dot data dot setting sound to. What should we set it to? If the sound is on, then we'll set it to 1, else we'll set it to 0. And we also need to update it inside our audio manager. So audio manager dot instance dot toggle sound, so it will refresh the sound settings, and that should be done for our main menu manager. And we also need to attach the level button. So the level button also does not have much, so using unity engine.ui, so it's going to have a private button, and let's call it button, and after it's going to have a serialized field for the private int level, and inside our awake method we'll first get the button component. So button is equals to get component button, and button dot on click dot add listener, and we'll add a listener for the click, and we added the clicked function, and after that inside our clicked function we'll just do player prefs dot setInt constants dot data dot current level to our level. Let's just have it as that level, and we'll do unity engine dot scene management dot scene manager dot load scene, which is the first index, and that should be our default button. Now if we go inside unity, and we need to first inside our main menu manager add the two animator components and the set active, which is our active, and for our sound we need to attach a button component script which is going to have a color tint of none. On click we'll add the main menu manager, which is going to have the toggle sound, the play is going to have our open level function, and finally inside our levels and inside our close we'll attach a button component, and similarly it's going to have the function to close the levels. So again it took 45 minutes, but it was faster. So as you can see, we have our current level set up, and let's hit play. There should be problems, but we are not having. So object reference not set to an instance of an object. Close. What happened? Main menu manager CS36. Audio manager dot inst. Okay, our audio manager was not toggled on. So let's hit the audio manager and let's click play again. And if we click play, we are able to see all our animations, which goes inside our main menu screen. And our animation, I think it's currently off. And we also need to set up our animations. So it's going to be active sound button dot set active to not sound. So it should be working fine. We just added one bit of code line here, which is this one, active button dot set active, which will refresh that. Now let's go inside Unity and let's hit play, and we should be done with our main menu. So we are able to see all that, and let's add our levels detail to every of the buttons. So inside our first button, let's set it to 1. For the second, we'll set it to 2. For the third, we'll set it to 3. Similarly, for all of our buttons, we are going to add our level details so it sets up the level. Then we have the 6. Now let's set it to 7, 8, 9, 10, and this one is the 11, and this one is the 12th. So that was our main menu, and after that we'll start creating our gameplay scenes. So let's open up the gameplay scene, which I already created it. Currently it does not have anything else. It just has an event system, the main camera, which has a size. Now let's add, what should we add first? Close button. Yeah, that's the only thing that. So let's go. We could first add our player. So let's go inside our main panel. Let's copy the player outline, and we'll go inside it and add our player, and it's going to be positioned at -6, and it doesn't need the animator component, so we'll remove that component. We'll add a movement component to it, and both the red and blue are working pretty much fine. The size is also correct. Now after having that, inside our canvas, the scaling is also set up. Now let's add a game start message. So let's create a UI text and we'll call it game start message, and 1080 by 256, and bold size is going to be 32 to 128, auto size minimum 32 128, and position is going to be from the center, and it's already going to be positioned at 0, but we need to attach, where are the extra settings, hide everything. canvas group component on which we are going to add an animation, which is just a default animation, which is going to transition from the transparency is going to transition from 1 to 0, so it fades out. And for the color, we are going to use the pure white color. And for the text, let me copy our first level text. So let's just use our first level text and we'll copy it inside here. Now that was our start message. We are going to have a pause panel and let's create an image. So where is our UI and image, and we'll call it as pause button, which is going to be positioned from the top -64 -64. Its size is going to be 128 by 128, but the image going to be close, and we'll add a button component to it, which is going to have a color tint of none. Now after that, let's create our pause panel. So our pause panel, again, it's going to have an image component attached to it, and let's make it color black, transparency around 25, increase the size to 1080 by 256 plus 128, so it fits perfectly. And we are going to position it at negative, or not negative, positive 256. So this is going to be our pause panel. Now inside our pause panel, we are going to have two buttons. So we'll just grab it from our main menu, which is our first is our play button. So let's go inside our main panel and let's copy our play button. And we'll go inside our gameplay scene and copy our play button to our pause panel. And let's have it from the center 0 0, and it's going to be at 256. And there's not going to be any function right now. It's going to be menu button, and for the menu button we are just going to use our menu, and for the plus 32, it's going to be 320 by 320 size and positioned at -256. And let's delete our image. So these are our just simple two buttons. It's not going to be much complicated, and that should be for our main panel UI or the gameplay UI. Now we also have a prayer. Let's attach our game manager script, and for our player outline we are going to attach our player movement script. And for the red and the blue, we will first attach a circle collider 2D, then we'll attach a rigid body 2D, which is going to have a gravity scale of 0. And after that, we'll attach a player collision script. So these are all the components which will needed. The game manager, similarly, it's going to have a game manager script, and everything's positioned correctly. So we should be able to create all the functions and start scripting. So what should we create first? Let's create the awake method to hide our pause panel. Let's create our game manager functions first, because they are going to be somewhat larger and it will be easier to create it. Or maybe we'll just go with whatever. So our audio manager is done, And as you can see, we already have our constants which has all the text and the names. And game text default, we needed to create that animation, but we'll do it afterwards. So let's hide our menu manager and our level button. Audio manager is also going to be hidden. We'll need the constants, so let's go inside our game manager first. So we'll need using collections dot generic. Collections is not going to be needed. We'll need to use using TM Pro, and the first thing we are going to have is our public static game manager instance, and we are going to initialize in our awake method, which is going just to set instance to this. And after that, we'll have a serialized field private game object, which is for the pause button, and our PAUSC pause panel. And inside our start, we'll set pause button dot set active to true, and pause panel dot set active to false. And private bool is game over, and its game over is going to set to false, and the time scale is also going to set to 1f. And after that, let's create our game pause function and game unpause function. So public void game pause. So when our game is paused, we'll hide our pause button and show our pause panel. And after that, we'll set the time scale to 0. And when the game unpauses, we'll first check if the game is finished. Then we'll do Unity Engine dot scene management dot scene manager dot load scene, and we'll load the game first scene, and we'll return it. We don't need to do anything. And here in the unpause, pause button is going to set to true, and it's going to set to false, and this one is going to set to 1. And when the scene reloads, the time scale is automatically set to 1, so it won't matter much. Now public void go to menu, which is going to call the scene with the index 0. Auto aligner, it's difficult. After that, let's create our game over and game win conditions. So public void game over, and the game finishes. The set is game over to true, and we'll play audio manager dot instance dot play sound, and we'll play. The game is finished, so explosion clip, and we need to add it, and public void game win. It's going to be similar, but here instead of explosion clip, we are going to play the point clip, and we need to add clip and explosion clip. So it attached in our audio manager. Music source, click sound. Generate field, private object, explosion clip. So it did create, but where did it create? Point clip. So it does not know. So let's create our variables first. So the first variable is going to be serialize field, private animator, and it's going to be the text animator, and mm, 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 I don't think we'll need the animator again. It's just going to be the default idle text. Now let's add a serialize field, and this one is going to be the private TMP text, and the text is going to be our start message. And again serialize field, private audio clip, and the first one is our explosion clip, and the next one is our clip. So it's going to play all the animations. Now we need to set up inside our start function after the time scale is set up. So first we'll get the level. So level is going to be player prefs dot ASCII. I think we won't need the ASCII. We'll directly get the getInt, and we'll get the constants dot data dot current level, and we'll first check if level is equals to constants dot data dot start messages dot count, and level is equals to 1, or maybe just count plus 1. Then we'll set the start message dot text is going to be constants dot data dot start messages, and we'll pass the level minus 1. And after that we'll instantiate, and we are going to need a couple of prefabs. So let's go inside after serialize field, private list of game objects, and it's going to be called levels, and we are directly going to assign it from GameManager, so it won't matter much. So we'll instantiate the levels at up.15, up multiply by 15 at quaternion dot identity, and instead of levels we'll pass the levels of level minus 1. So this is going to spawn our level, and after that audio manager dot instance dot add button sounds. So our start function is done. Now when the game over is called, we'll also cause a game pause function, and inside also the game win will I don't think the game win needs to set the call the game pause. Mm, 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 mm. And also the oh, so when the game is over, we are going to call the game pause function, but when we win the game, first we'll get the level. So player prefs dot getInt constants dot data dot current level, and we'll increase the level and we can do it in one line. Why doesn't return the value? So it's going to increase the level count by 1, and we'll set the player prefs dot setInt constants dot data dot current level to the level, and we are already playing the clip, and we'll do unity engine dot scene management dot scene manager dot load scene. We'll replay the scene again. Hmm, 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 hmm. Yeah, let's just have that now. So we have our game scene, game over. Now, what function do we need? Let's add our player movement function because it's going to be called first. Now, inside our player movement function, so it's just going to have using Unity engine. Now, let's create a serialized field, and it's going to be private float and rotation speed, and after that it's going to be move speed, and we'll create a private float horizontal foot, and we'll go inside our update method, and we'll first get the input, and then inside our fixed update method we'll update the player's position depending on the input. So update, let's first get v3 mouse pose is equals to input dot get mouse button down or 0, not get mouse button down, get mouse button off 0. Then we'll set it to 1, else we'll set it to 0. So if it is not, we are just going to set it to 0, and if it is, then we'll set it to camera dot main dot screen toward point of dot mouse position. So it's going to have our mouse pose, and after that we'll set horizontal input is equals to mpose dot x is greater than uh let's just 0.05f, and we'll set it to 1, as we'll set it to -1. Hmm, 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 hmm. Else again we'll set it to 0f, and for here we need to set pose dot x is less than -0.05f. So it's going to get our input position, and inside our fixed update let's first get our angles, and it's going to be transform dot rotation dot Euler angles, and angles dot z minus equals to which is going to be rotation speed multiplied by horizontal input multiplied by time dot fixed delta time, and after that transform dot rotation is going to be quaternion dot Euler, and we'll pass our angles, and transform dot position is going to be move speed multiplied by time dot fixed delta time multiply by up, because why it's update v3 dot up, v3 dot up. So this should start moving our player, Now let's go inside our player. Let's see if first our player is working. So the type audio manager cannot play internal void play sound. Why did it create a play sound here? Okay, so that was a problem. It again created a play sound. Mm, 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 So now every error should be fine. And it's going to cause some problems. So instead of the gameplay, we are going to open it from our main menu. So if we hit play and open our first scene, object reference. Okay, so inside our main menu manager, inside where the object reference is, right, game manager CS31. Pause button dot set active to true. We need to add our references inside our game manager. So the first is our pause button, next is our pause panel, and then is our game start message, which is the TMP text. Now next up we have our two sounds, which is the coin and the explosion, and also let's add some random game object. So let's just spawn the blue. I don't know wherever it is, but we are just going to spawn a blue. Okay, we'll just spawn, it doesn't matter. So it will spawn our first element, and let's also attach all our functions. So if we go inside our game manager, it's called the game pause function, and inside our pause panel for the play, it's going to call the game unpause function, and for our menu, it's going to call the go to menu function. So these are the three button functions, and the input manager, it should be on the player. So rotation speed, we are going to set it as 180 and move speed to 5. Okay, so it is working fine. Now let's go inside our main menu scene and let's hit play and hope everything works. So let's hit play and let's go inside our scene. And as you can see, it is not turning the left. So there are a couple of problems, but we'll fix it up. So on draw.io, so the first problem is the player input. So else if 1 and -1 mouse pose.x. So the left is not working, but it's always moving towards the right. Rotation speed multiplied by horizontal input. So horizontal input is going to be -1. So let's go inside gameplay and uh, there are going to be couple of errors. So inside our game manager, we'll hide our comment out our audio manager script so it doesn't show any errors. And now let's debug all the problems that are happening. So let's hit play and let's see where are we getting any problems. So it is moving. Player outline. It is moving at a move speed of 5. Okay, I got it. So the move speed of 5, we need to move it inside the forward direction instead of the up. So instead of v3 dot up, we'll use v3 dot forward and then press play. So now our player should be moving. So let's hit play. And it spawned the blue, which collided. I think it collided with our. Hmm. Player are transform dot position, transform dot rotation. So let's hit play and let's first see if we can move left. So it's moving left and it's moving right. There are so many problems. So let's attach our animation first so it goes away whenever we click it. So let's create an animator and we'll create an animator. So it's going to be animator controller AC under slash gameplay under slash text. There is only one animator, so it doesn't matter. We'll just call it text and AC gameplay text. Let's open up our animation window and we'll create a text animation. We'll just call it text and let's add the canvas groups alpha property, and at the end it's just going to set to 0 and loop time is going to be off. And now whenever the game starts, our animation is going to fade away. And again, there's a problem with our horizontal input. So we have the horizontal input. If it is greater than 0, screen to world point. So there was a problem with the screen to world point, and I think it should be fixed. So let's hit play. And if we click left, it should turn left, and if we click right, it should turn right. And again, there's problem with our player outline. It's only moving in the forward direction. I think move speed into time dot fixed delta time into v3 dot forward transform dot rotation plus is equals to. So that was a problem with just one typo. Instead of using plus is equals to, I just used equal to. And now we are able to see it. I don't know why is it happening. Our player outline is moving in the Z direction. Okay, so it was not forward, it was up. But now we should be able to see everything working fine. And let's create a follow player script. So for the main camera, inside our scripts, we'll create a follow player and we'll open it up. Before opening it, let's add it to our camera. Come on, show me the camera. Why does it crash every time? Not crash, I think. Need to change the settings. So camera, follow camera. Not camera, follow player. So let's go inside Visual Studio and we'll start editing our follow player. So which is our follow player script, and inside the scripting part we'll also attach our player movement. And I don't think there are much more scripts. So audio manager is done, box rotate will be remaining, Now we are creating our follow player, it only using Unity Engine.UI. And let's create a serialized field, and we'll use private transform, player transform, and after we'll use start pose, and private float we are going to use the offset. And let's first set the start pose to be transform.position, and offset is going to be start pose.y minus player transform.position.y, and not inside our update. We'll go inside our late update function. We'll first set the transform.position, and we'll set the temp.y to be player transform.position.y plus offset, and transform.position is going to be temp. I don't know why did we need start pose. Yeah, start pose plus offset if we don't directly use it. But whatever it may be. So now our follow player should be working, and let's go inside Unity, and let's see if we are able to see our player. And currently it's going to spawn this bluish, the variable player transform is not, so we need to attach our player transform, which is from our player. So let's hit play, and let's go inside our first screen. So the play is working, the pause is working, and our main menu is working. Now the rest, all we need to do is add the collision, and yep, let's add the collision so it triggers the game state, which is the game over or the game in condition. And finally there's going to be one more script for our rotating the box, which we should just create it. So let's first create those two scripts first. The one script we already created. Let's create the second script, which is going to be for the box rotate. And the box rotate script is going to rotate the box after a certain period of delay. So let's go inside Visual Studio, and it takes a little bit to open the Visual Studio, and we'll first editing our box rotate script. So audio manager is done. Next we have a box rotate script. Let's delete this, and we are going to using system.collections, and inside our box rotate we'll first get a serialized feed, private float delay, then we'll have a rotation speed, and next we'll have the player speed, and finally we'll have the start offset, which is going to be 15 plus 6, around 21. Now inside our start we'll first set offset to be delay plus our start offset, and after that we'll set delay to be offset divided by our player speed. So it's going to take that much time. So the player is going to take that much time to reach it. Now what we are going to do is we have a delay, we'll subtract half a rotation, so which is the 90f, and it's going to have a 630f, so 540 plus 90. So 540 is going to be like 360 plus 180. It will turn 3 times and half time, and after that we'll divide it by rotation speed, so it is going to delay that much amount of time. And after that we'll delay the percentage by 360f divided by rotation speed, so which is going to like start instantly instead of like doing it at the end. And after that we'll call the start coroutine, and which is rotate, not box rotate, rotate, and we'll create this rotate function or the enumerator, and we'll call it rotate. And first thing we are going to do is yield return new wait for seconds, and we are going to wait for the delay amount of seconds. And after that, while everything is true, it's going to start rotating. So transform.rotate, and it's going to rotate with respect to the forward direction. Here we'll need forward, multiply by the rotation speed, and finally multiply by the time dot delta time, and we'll return so this should fix up our rotate function. We already created the follow player function. The constants is also working fine. And finally is our player collision. So inside our player collision, similarly, it's not going to have much. So we'll just call the game over and the game win function whenever the player collides with the target or our obstacle. So let's do on collision enter 2D, and if collision dot game object dot compare tag, so the first we are going to compare the tag constants dot data dot not data constant dot tags dot finish. So if we have finished the game, then we'll finish the game, so we'll just call the game manager dot instance dot game win, and let's just return. And after that, if we have to respawn, then we'll call the game over, and that should be it for our player collision. Now I think the scripting part is done. There is not much more scripts, so let's go inside Unity and let's create our obstacles first. So we are going to create our obstacles in the prefabs. So here inside Unity, so we have everything set up. Let's just hide our pause panel, and everything's working correctly. So the box rotate we are going to attach on the box rotate. Hmm. Mm, 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 mm. So what we need first? Let's first create a box. So for that we'll just use our default pixel, which is 1x1 size, and we are not going to resize it. I mean, we can, but it's already going to resize later. So where are my prefabs? So box, which is going to have a tag of respawn, and it's going to have a box collider 2D script, which I don't think we need to set to trigger, but we'll need to rescale it afterwards. And instead of We'll set it to sliced. We are already set up the width. And for one, and for one. So this is our default box. Let's just set it to 5-1 so it looks better. And that should be a default box. We'll rename it to box. It already has all the collisions and we'll save it as a prefab. It's just that simple. Now this is our default box. We'll duplicate the box, rename it to end. But here we are going to use the tag of finish, remove the sprite render component, and the size is going to be 10.8. And this is our end component, and let's delete this box. Now after this box we are going to create a couple of prefab instances for our boxes. So let's go inside create folder and we'll just call it boxes. And here what we'll do is let's first add our default box to the scene, and it's just going to be positioned at -3, and we'll save it as a new prefab. So it's going to be a prefab variant, and we'll rename it as box/left, and let's delete it. And again we'll add the current box, set its position to 3, and we'll again save this box as a variant, and we will call it box/right. Now let's delete this box again, and there's going to be one more variant, and this one we are going to resize it a little bit. So it's going to be 3x1, and we also need to change the box collider 2D size, and let's rename it to box center. And again we'll save it as a prefab variant. So this is our centered box. Now let's delete it, and we are going to need boxes. So that was our center box. Now we'll need a couple of more left and right boxes. So let's add our default box to the scene, but this is going to be size 3x3, and again we'll use 3x3, and we'll position it at -2, and we'll save it as a prefab. So we'll call it as box/left/1, and let's go inside our boxes and we'll save it as a prefab variant whose name we are going to call box/left1. Now we'll delete the box again, use our default box, resize it to 3.3, change the position to 2, rename it to box/right1, and just save it inside our boxes, which is going to be a prefab variant. Now there are 2 more boxes needed. So the box left one, where it is inheriting, overrides to box in box left one. Okay, we don't need to override, we need to have this box left one, and we'll call this box left 2, and we'll just decrease the size to 2.2, and if we say it as a prefab variant, So let's open our prefab variant and overrides to box left one. It doesn't matter we from whatever we created it from. So if we position this at 2, we can box right 2. Let's have it as a prefab variant. And again, there's the box L2 is inherited from the box L1, and our box R2 is inherited from the box L2. So doesn't matter much, we are not going to change it. But if you have any projects in which it's going to like inherit from different structures, it would be better if you like inherit from the base class or any other prefab, but it won't matter much. So we have the left one, left two. One more is going to be needed, which is going to be the L3, and it's going to be a center 3-1, and its position is going to be -4.5. Where is in my scene? So let's position it at -4, 3.1. -4. So if we are inside our scene, we should be able to see it. Let's just have it at -4.5, or it may cause problems, and we'll rename it as BL3. And again, we'll save it as a prefab variant, and we'll rename it as the BL3. Now, if we change the position to +4.5 and we save it as a prefab variant and rename it as BR3, so it's going to be inherited from different objects, so it doesn't matter much. So we have our default ones. Now let's add our base box to the scene, and we are just going to attach our box rotate script to it and delay, and let's first set up our rotation. So it's going to be 2 to 5, player speed is going to be 5, and the start offset is going to be 19.5. I don't know why it is 19. I know why it is 19.5, but it won't matter. Now we'll call this box as box rotate, and it's going to be inherited from our box, and it will start rotating. Let's lead this box rotate, and first we'll create the box rotate left, and we'll save it as a prefab variant. There are not any changes. So let's add our box rotate. We'll rename it to box rotate left, and now there is an option for the prefab variant. So let's rename it to box rotate left, and it's going to rotate accordingly. And let's delete this, and let's add rotate again, and this one is going to be the right, and instead of positive we are just going to use negative, and it's going to be a prefab variant, and we'll rename it to box rotate right. So this were our base objects on which we are going to create our levels. So let's first create an empty, and we'll call it level under /1. Let's reset its transform, and we'll save it as a prefab, and we'll create a new folder for our levels. and we'll put our level 1 inside our levels. Now I mean, I already created a couple of levels, but we also need a couple of more boxes, two maybe, and they are just going to be easy ones, just a different width size, which is a 3.4 size. I don't know where we'll be using it, but let's just do it. And this one is going to be the box, what it's called, box vertical. Vertical. And we'll save this box vertical as a prefab variant. And we also need to rename the variant. So box vertical, we have a box vertical. Let's delete this box vertical and let's add our original box, and this one is going to be box vertical in. Now it's just going to have a different size, so 1.4 and nothing else. And let's go inside our box vertical thin and save it as a prefab variant. And let's delete our vertical thin, and we'll also delete our levels. And inside our game manager, instead of element 0, we'll use our level 1, and let's start editing our level. So everything remaining is just editing our levels. So inside our levels, we'll use our boxes and the end. So let's first add our end. So this is our end. It's currently positioned it at 0, but I will position it at 60. And after that, the first we are going to use is a box vertical thin. And after having our box vertical thin, we'll use a box left at the 10th index and box right at the 20th. And L3 and R3 at 30. So let's add an L3 and an R3, which is this one, and we'll position it at 30. And after that, I don't know why we needed it, but let's just have it here. And L2 at 40 and R2 at 50. So which is our L2? It's going to be at 40 and our R2 is going to be at 50. So this is our first level. And as you can see, we have all of the things we are needed. And now we will see if everything's working fine. And at the end of the level, it will not work because we don't have the second level stored. But for now, inside our game manager, let's just have all of our levels. So there are going to be 12 levels, and every level is currently like set up to be there. And the game manager, let's also uncomment our audio manager content, and we'll disable the voice, but so uncommented the audio manager. Now if we go inside our gameplay or our main menu, we should be able to play the first level or any of those 12 levels. So let's hit play and let's go inside our first level. So it is working. Now if we hit any of this, it is going to show our default. And the only thing we need to check now if the game is having the end condition. So the game should finish, and it also loaded up our second text. Now, the only thing we need to do right now is to create all our levels, and the game will be finished. So if you want to follow along and see how I'm going to create all the levels, not just follow along. So it's just let's duplicate level 1 and we'll rename it to level 2. And we'll go inside our level 2. We'll delete everything except the end. And as I already added my levels, I know where my end is, which again it's going to be at 60, and there's going to be left at 0, right at 10, and afterwards left at 20 and vertical at 28. LR 35 40 45 50. So let's set the LR. Let's duplicate both of them and just add +10 and +10 to both of them. So this is our second level. As you can see, that is the end, and this is our second level. Now after having our second level, similarly we'll create all our levels, so which is the third level. And let's go inside our third level. Let's delete everything, and again the end is going to be at 55, and everything is just the left. So let's 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. Yep, and it's going to be the first left it as 0, the second left it as 10, the next left it as 20, then third left it as 25, 30, then we have 35 and 45, and finally the end at the 55. So this is going to be our level 3. Now let's see how our level 3 looks inside our main menu. So let's go inside our So to see how our level 3, we also need to go inside our gameplay, and inside our game manager we need to attach our second and the third level. Now if we go inside our main menu scene, and we'll also turn on the sound so we are able to see if we are. So let's hit play and let's start creating the third level. So okay, so it didn't work. All we need to do is just hold left. So if we just hold left, the game's going to finish. So that was our basic default level. Now I am going to create a couple more levels. So this one is the third level. There are just 9 more levels remaining, and it's going to be easy. I don't think it will take more than a minute to create any of these levels. So let's go inside our 4 and let's delete all of our boxes, and it's going to be at 0 5 and 10 we have left. So let's have left. Second one is at 5 and next one is at 10, and 20 25 and 30 are the right ones. So let's go box right, which is at 20 and 25, and finally if we duplicate it again, it's going to be at 30. Trigger size and everything is correct. Then we have L1, R1, L1, R1, L1. So which is our L1, which is going to be at 30 or maybe 40. Then we have R1, which is going to be at 46.5. And let's duplicate this too, and we also duplicate. Then we have 55, 61.5 and 68, and the final one's at 68. So as you can see, we are creating our basic template for the levels, and this one is going to be at 80, which is our end screen. So that was our level 4, and we don't need anything. Let's go inside our gameplay. We'll attach our level 4 to the fourth or maybe the third level. 8 more levels to go. One is duplicate and the rest are easy. It's not even difficult. So let's duplicate our level 4 and we'll rename it to level 5. Let's go inside our level, delete all of our ends, and for the end it's going to be at 70, small level. And the first thing we are going to have is a right at 0, and next we have a center at 5, and left 15 and 20. So left at 15, one more left at 20, and then we'll have L2 and R2 at 30 and 35. So which are the small ones? 30 and 35. And next we have center at 40, and after we have right, left, right. So it's going to be right, left, and finally right. So the right starts from 45 and 50, and next we have the 55 and finally 60. And as you can see, we have the end at the top. So that was for the level 5. And let's go inside our game manager and we add our level 5 to the 5th index level and the 6th index level, because we don't have one more level for it. And we need to decrease this, and let's create our 6th level. So let's duplicate level 5 and we'll rename it to level 6. And let's go inside our level 6, delete all the ends, and our end is going to be at just 10, and it's just going to have one component, which is rotate left. And as it's already positioned at 0, the calculations are going to be point on, but we'll play the level once so we are able to see it. And let's attach our rotating level, which is the 6th level, to our 6th level, and we'll need to rename it to level 7 because this is our 7th level. And if we inside our game manager, and we need to go inside our main menu, and we need to play our first scene in which we are able to rotate our object. So let's see. Working fine. So again, there's a problem with the delay. So I think it's a problem with the fixed update. So inside our box rotate, the delay is a little bit larger. Time dot point not one f, and yield return new. Wait 4 seconds and we'll return for 0.01 f seconds. So let's see how our current level is looking right now. So let's hit play and let's see if our rotations are still smooth. Okay, so there's a problem. Return new time dot fixed delta time and here return null. Still the rotations are going to be choppy. I don't know why are they choppy, but we'll fix it up somehow. So we are just going to check the levels. So let's hit play and what the fuck just happened? Here return null. While true v3 dot forward time dot delta time. Why is there fixed delta time? So let's hit play and let's see how it's going to look. So except for the rotation is choppy, there's not much problems. Now let's start creating our list of the levels. So they are pretty much simple. We just have like 5 more levels remaining and let's start creating it. So we are inside the Unity editor and we need to create our level 8, which is going to have also the rotations. No, so it has a box left, then it has a R3 at 3. Where is our R3? Rotate R3 at 3. Then it's going to have R at 10, L3 at 13, and R23 at 28. And our end is going to be positioned at 60. R, and next we'll need an L3 at 28, and after that L3 just L at 28. R3 at 32, R3, rotate, R3 at 32, 28, 32. After we have all three, we are going to have 12s at 30 and 38, I don't know, whatever it is. 38, one more L at 43. And after that we are going to have R3 at 48, which is going to be the final one, and that is our end. So this one is going to be our level 8. So let's go inside our gameplay game manager, and we'll add our 8th level to our 7th element. 4 more levels to go. I mean 3 more, the next one is pretty easy. So let's duplicate the 7. We'll rename this to 9, and if we open it up at the end to be at 10, 15, 20, let's just set it up at 25. We have a 0 L, and next up we'll add an R, rotate R, which is going to be positioned at 7, and we also need to change the delay to 7 so it works, and then we'll have an L which is going to be positioned at 14, and the delay will also be 14. And there's also the and, so it won't matter much. Now let's go inside our game manager and we'll attach our 9th level. which is at the 8th instance. So 3 more levels to go. And they are going to be pretty simple. So let's duplicate our 8th level. We'll rename it to 10 and we'll open it up, delete rest of the boxes, and the boxes which we are going to use is R0510. So let's add our boxes, R at 0, R at 5, and one more R at 10. And afterwards L2 at 15 and R2 at 20. And 4 lefts, 25, 30, 35, 40. I think there's a problem. 4 lefts, so 1, 2, 3, 4. 30, 35, 40, 45. So it's going to be at 30, 35. Then next we'll have it 40, and finally at the 45. And after that, that's going to be at R3 at where it's going to be 50. Yeah, it's going to be at 50, 25, 30. So it starts from 25, 30, 35, and finally there's 40. And the last one, R3, is going to be at 45, and our end's going to be at 60. So this one is going to be our 10th level. So let's go inside our level and paste it inside our 9th index. Now let's duplicate this 10 and we'll rename it to 11, and we'll delete all of it. बोल रिकॉर्डिंग कर रहा हूँ. क्यों, क्या गैरेज जा रहा था? रिकॉर्डिंग कर रहा. नहीं, खत्म होने आया, 5 मिनट ही बाकी है. अपलोड करने रखूंगा ना उसके बाद. अरे नहाने का भी बाकी है मेरा. कोई बात नहीं, मेरे को करने दे, अभी 2 मिनट बाकी है, कहाँ लंबा खिंचा रहा है. अपलोड करने के बाद मेरे को सारे साइट पे भी करना पड़ेगा ना, आधा पौना घंटा निकल जाता है. So this is going to be our 11th level, and I already created it, so it doesn't matter much. So it's going to have first an L, which is going to be at 0. Then it's going to have an R3 at 5. And next is going to have one more LR3, which is at 10. Or yeah, it's at 10. And this R3 is at where is that? 3. And there's going to be one more R3, and this one is going to be at 13. And we'll have it R at 23. And what do we need? Where did I go? So this is the wrong configuration. Let's delete it. First we have L at 0, then we have R3 at 5, and next we have L at 10 and R3 at 15. Then we'll have R2 at 25, then L2 at 30, and rotate right at 38. and it's going to have a delay of 38. And after that we have R3 at 45 and R at 45 and L3 at 48 points. So there is an R at 45 and L3 at 48.5, and our end is going to be positioned at 60. Now that is our 11th level. So let's add our 11th level. So it's going to be here. Let's duplicate this 11th level and we'll rename it to 12. And for this 12, the position is going to be a little bit higher, which is the end. And let's now add our last level. So it's going to have an L at 0, then R3 at 5, where is our R3, then center at 10. So then RL3 at 15 and 20. So there's an R15 and L3 at 20. And after that, we have one more R and L3 at 25 and 30. R at 25 and L3 at 30. And after that, we'll add a rotate right at 37.5. We also need to set up this delay, which is going to calculate when it's going to rotate or our player will collide with it. And that's going to be a center at 45 and left at 50, R3 at 55. And a couple more levels and it will be finished. And rotate left at 62.5. So it's going to be rotate left at 62.5. Delay also need to be set up. And finally the center at 70. And we already have the end condition at 80, and this is going to be our final level and the end of our game. Now if we go inside our main menu and start playing the game, we should be able to see everything. So these are our levels. If we create the 2, we are able to create it. Let's add the 5th, we are able to add it, and it's working pretty much fine. I not added the rest of the stages, but you can create it yourself. I mean, this much are enough for a sample tutorial, or it will be much larger and you'll just have watching me setting all the values. So that was it for this video. If you did like the video, do like the video and also comment below, because it helps grow the channel, and also click on the subscribe icon if you want to watch more similar videos. And thank you guys for watching if you watched the whole video, and see you guys in the next one.